on 12 News, PTSD post-explosion, how you can get free counseling. Plus, ICE's recruitment from a Beaumont federal prison, the intriguing details in a federal trial now underway. And the process moves forward with the release of the impeachment report saying the president abused his power of office. Nearly 1 week later, we continue our coverage of the TPC plant explosion in Port Neches. The top 3 things to know. Number 1, PNG ISD students returned to class today for the first time since the blast. Teachers welcome students with special signs at Port Neches Elementary. Number 2, air monitoring continues around the clock in areas around the plant. And number 3, if you were impacted by the explosion, you need to file a claim. We have more details on that in just moments. But first, we know the TPC explosions have left many of you feeling uneasy and anxious. The TPC group has partnered with a local counseling center to offer emotional help. 12 News reporter Kelsey Johnson is live in Port Neches tonight with details on where you can turn.
Here in Southeast Texas, we've lived with petrochemical plants in our backyard, but last week's explosion changed the way some people think about them. Barbara Corville has been with the Samaritan Counseling Center for more than a decade. She tells me fear is the emotion most people are experiencing after the TPC blast. Corville says TPC reached out to them after the explosions to set up a hotline. TPC is also footing the bill for 6 one-on-one counseling sessions. The counseling hotline will be around for the next 2 weeks. Corville tells me it's not just the adults suffering, but kids too.
Mostly that it will happen again, and the uncertainty of what was let out, what damaged to their health, and just concerned for their children, the children being afraid that it's going to happen again.
The crisis number you need to call is 727-6400. It's a 24-hour hotline, and if you call after 6, the call will transfer you to the Spindletop Crisis Hotline. Again, this is different from the TPC claims number. And coming up at 6, Corville explains some ways that you can help yourself if you're dealing with fear and anxiety. Live in Port Neches, Kelsey Johnson, 12 News.
Thanks, Kelsey. Very important information. Well, students in PNG ISD wrapped up their first day of class following the explosions. Superintendent Mike Gonzalez says crews have spent 6 days making sure the schools were safe and sanitized for students to resume classes. But not everyone eager to send their kids back. Some parents have posted on social media saying they plan to keep their kids home today. Assistant Superintendent Julie Gaucher says concerned parents should have no worries when it comes to their children. And if you were affected by the explosions in Port Neches and had to evacuate, you can file a claim. You can either call the hotline or fill out a form online. But we've heard from some of you that the hotline is experiencing a high volume of calls. So the online form may be a better option. You'll be asked to provide information about your family and who's the head of household. The form is on our website, 12newsnow.com. Most of the damage from last week's explosions were visible. Blown out windows, collapsed ceilings, doors ripped off hinges. But what about the structural damage and the problems in the attic? Cracked beams or broken vent pipes? Home Inspector Curtis Carr talked to us about what he's seen in Port Neches.
We saw a lot of doors that were just completely blown off the hinges, doors that were shattered, frames that were damaged. Even interior doors that had been closed, that the concussion put big splits in those doors. So you're talking about replacement of doors like that.
And he says they just started inspecting homes today. So they haven't actually hit many of the homes just yet or taken a look at those. But he says from the number of calls that came in over the weekend, he expects there'll be many more. Today, the American Red Cross opened a recovery center at First Baptist in Nederland. Caseworkers are available to help with creating personal recovery plans, navigating paperwork, and locating other assistance. You can meet one-on-one with caseworkers, and spiritual care and mental health workers are also ready to help.
We had a couple of windows, about 3 windows busted out. A lot of things, like when it happened, everything like fell off the wall. Someone came to our house and actually told us there's extra funds available to us with the Red Cross. So that's why we're coming here to kind of find out how much we can get.
The Recovery Center is set up in the church gymnasium. The hours vary, so make sure to check ahead of time before you go. We have all this information on our website along with the TPC hotline. Here's another look at the number to call to report damage and make claims. Chilling details coming out of the federal court this afternoon. A Beaumont inmate accused of providing resources to terrorists. 12 News investigator Lauren Hensley tells us about some of the evidence presented in court.
Erica, a manual that could be described as a how-to guide for terrorists was presented as evidence in the trial of Muhammad Ahmed. Cameras aren't allowed in federal court, and the feds won't release his photo. Ahmed is accused of trying to recruit fellow inmates at Beaumont Federal Prison to become soldiers for ISIS. Prosecutors say the plan was for them to perform an act of terror when they got out. Ahmed was housed at the medium security part of the complex. That's not visible from the main part of the road. Now, as his trial started, Homeland Security officers gathered at the courthouse downtown. Inside, a former inmate testified he was under Ahmed's instruction and he had physical training. He was given a cell phone and the terrorism manual, and he was tested on that material. The former inmate stated Ahmed said if he did well, he would become an ISIS soldier. Why would this former inmate come forward? That question was asked in federal court today. The man responded his father served in the Marines and fought for the rights that Ahmed wanted to take from people. Lauren Hensley, 12 News.
Thank you, Lauren. Well, happening in about 30 minutes, Port Arthur city leaders will meet to talk about drainage issues. The city wants to buy 14 acres of vacant land right off Lake Arthur Drive to build a detention pond. The pond would be located between the Autumn Chase and Bent Tree apartments. The land alone costs about $850,000. The detention pond could provide drainage in the Lake Arthur, improved drainage rather, in the Lake Arthur neighborhood. We're having some gorgeous weather in the forecast. Once again, meteorologist James Brown is in our Storm Tracker Center with a closer look.
This is good stuff, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
loving it.
Love it. As you said earlier, I'd like to bottle this up and sell it. But yeah, it's very nice and pleasant outside. 62 degrees. We hit 70 and 71 this afternoon. Make that 58% relative humidity, and winds are variable, mainly out of the south and southwest at 4 or 5 miles per hour so far this afternoon. Continuing to see lots of sunshine, rather. A few clouds up to the north of us along the Red River through Arkansas. Those are those high cirrus clouds that have been moving across Texas. 63 degrees up in Jasper, 65 in Woodville, 64 Silsbee, also 65 over in Dayton, and 68 in Houston. We are expecting to see clear skies overnight tonight, dropping down into the 40s for overnight lows, but by about 10 o'clock, it'll still be about 52 degrees with clear skies again tomorrow. Highs will be back to near 70 with, again, comfortable humidity levels. Details on your 7-day outlook coming up in a little bit.
You're almost out of time. It's the last day to apply for federal assistance after Imelda. Everyone affected in the declared counties can register with FEMA and apply for a federal low-interest disaster loan with the Small Business Administration. Another Democratic candidate for president is out of the race, while Kamala Harris says she is ending her campaign. That's coming up. And getting into the giving spirit on this Giving Tuesday. How you can help. Next.